Hello, Steve White, Trekboy 89 for Steve Arts 89. Well, I just went through season 3 of Star Trek Enterprise. It's not my favourite season of the show. They tried to do a war arc, a September 11 story, which was really basic, good guys versus bad guys, nothing really learned or achieved at the end of it. The good guys won, of course, bad guys lost, nothing really there to feast upon. But unfortunately for them, and fortunately for us, they kind of failed in trying to do a season-long arc. They realised 22 episodes, or 24 episodes, I think, for this season. No, they couldn't do it. They didn't do it. So there's a whole lot of actual Star Trek episodes that slipped in that saved the season from just being a season of Deep Space Nine, basically, which is the worst Star Trek, the anti-Star Trek. But yeah, so it starts off actually with season 2, the last episode, The Expanse, which I love the fact they're going into this weird expansive space where nothing is what it should be, and it's really interesting because I love the idea of space anomalies and wonder and not knowing what you're going to find. So I do enjoy the last episode going in, and I did watch that and then the rest of the season. So the Xindi, and a lot of those are going to blend into each other is the problem. So the first episode, they're really just trying to work out who the Xindi are, and trying to get used to having military officers on board the Enterprise, which is another thing I hated. But at least it did establish that Starfleet is not the military, or they wouldn't have had to bring in military people to help them fight a war. Hello. Now, normally, so that's the first episode of the Xindi. Now, Anomaly is focusing on a lot of these spatial distortions that happened, and finding a dead ship, not knowing exactly what's happened to people. And a lot of these things are just really just things that don't make sense, like parts of the ship, the cargo just flies from one side of the bay to the other every couple of minutes. Ripples of something will just go through the whole ship and knock tables, cups off tables, and Archer's coffee is just floating in the middle of the room while he's walking around it. All these weird things happen, and it's wonderful. Now, Extinction. Oh, that's right. Yeah, oh my god. This episode I really hated, and I always think of negatively, but it actually is a lot better than I remember. Extinction. It's basically, and it's one of those random ones for no reason, where they just go down to this planet and they find ruins and they get infected with a virus that basically turns them into another race. And the point of doing that is to keep that race alive. That race created that virus, so whenever someone visits their planet, they'll be turned into them, whether they stay them or whether they cure it and then can just sort of reflect upon it. And the worst part is there's a scene where all the actors turn into aliens and they're talking gibberish and acting like aliens and like wild animals, and you're just like cringing, like, oh, these poor actors, these poor serious actors having to do this stuff. But then they sort out the universal translator and talking and everything, and then you realise there actually is a point, a story. They're being hunted as well by these people who want to stop this disease from spreading. And eventually, of course, they have to save their crew. So they're basically saying, let's cure this disease, and keep the memory of these people alive while saving our people. Just killing them is not the answer. Regin, the council, of course, the Xindi council is arguing about everything, and while they're running around looking for stuff, they find this woman who's basically a spy, and she's got special powers, and it's I don't know, she's just like touching people, and you can see their skeletons and everything, and their muscle through, and you're like, what is she doing? She's scanning the humans basically to help the Xindi create a bioweapon. So it's got an element of Mud's Women to it, but not the best episode. Impulse. Now, Impulse is the notorious Vulcan zombie episode, and it's great. Because unlike the Klingon zombie episode with Strange New Worlds, that was anticlimactic because Klingon zombies are just less scary than actual Klingons. Vulcan zombies were terrifying. Basically, there's a ship that is being affected by something in the environment that affects Vulcans. It starts to affect T'Pol as well, and she has long-term problems with this, which we don't find out till later in the season. But they find a ship, they get stuck on a ship with Vulcan zombies, and it's just pretty awesome. I'm not going to go into too much detail there. I don't want to ruin all the stories. I just want to let you guys know what is in there and talk about the stuff that I liked. Exile. Oh, that's right. They find the spears, and there's this telepath. This is one of the random episodes where this guy just somehow discovers that Hoshi has special abilities. He's able to contact her from a distance. He calls her to him. They go there, and then he basically offers some information about the Xindi if Hoshi stays with him while he gives this information. So she does. They do. They go off on some adventure. They come back, but he wants her to stay because he basically lives for hundreds of years, and he basically needs companions, and he wants her to be the new companion. So it's some weird gothic romance sort of attempted story or something. Kind of feels like Rebecca a little bit, but it's just sort of like, okay, totally one-off episode. Really has nothing to do with the rest of the story, but it's all linked in, but it's really its own story. They could have done it as its own story and was probably planned as its own story, and they're just like, we need filler because we can't stretch this actual Xindi arc out to 26 episodes. But I'd rather have, but even, real Star Trek filler is better than the best of the new track attempts. The shipment. Okay. That's right. I'll just say, no, that's not the one I thought it was. Infiltrating a Xindi sloth industrial colony, Archer finds materials used in... Yeah, for a second I thought this was the one with the babies. This is just... they let one of the people know who's creating some of the parts of the weapon that they're aiding, genocide basically, and the guy ends up turning and helping Archer. So not a lot happens in this one. It is one of those ones where we just need this to happen to be part of the bigger story, and that's what makes these chapters in a bigger story episodes of a season not very interesting. Twilight, of course. Twilight is great. Basically, we find that Earth has failed. They didn't stop the device. The Enterprise failed. The Earth has been destroyed, and the remainder of the crew, I think 9,000 humans survived, and they're basically just refugees on various planets. And Archer, just before this happened, he was taken out of command because he saved T'Pol from an anomaly, and he had brain damage basically. And eventually, they find out a way to cure it. And they realise when they cure it in the present, it cures it in the past, which allows him to continue on in command and change things. And basically they sacrifice themselves because hopefully Archer staying in command will, have a different outcome with the whole Xindi thing. So it's a great episode where we get to see T'Pol taking care of Archer in an older age to pay him back for him saving her life in the first place. And it does hint towards the little bit of romance they were trying to build with those characters in the first season. And it's a good episode. We get to see their children, and like I said, I don't want to go too much into the stories because I don't want to ruin them in case you haven't seen them. Now, North Star. Now, this is one which, again, it just starts off, because a couple of these episodes just start off and you have no idea where you are and what you're doing, and you almost wouldn't know you're watching Star Trek, and that's the point. They're trying to trick you into thinking you're watching something else. So this one is a Western. It's called North Star. Basically, some humans were kidnapped by some aliens and left in the Expanse. They eventually, defeated their captors, and they just stayed and stagnated. And basically, they're stuck acting like they're in like the 1800s or whatever, the Westerns, back when they were taken, basically. And Archer and that basically free them in a sense. And there's a nice scene where one of the ladies who's a teacher is basically saying, "I'm just ashamed because we've stagnated. We haven't gone anywhere. You guys have gone to the stars. You've done all these things, and we're basically exactly who we were a couple hundred years ago. We haven't grown. We haven't done anything." So it's an interesting episode, but totally standalone. Similitude, again, they had the idea of what if we grew a whole human to get spare parts to save another human. And it's a little bit of they wanted their own Tuvix for this season, and Trip gets injured, and they grow another Trip to get the parts for Trip. And they originally thought that they could remove these parts, and the other Trip would live his whole 14 days because all these it's an alien technology. Basically, you create a clone of a person. They live 15 days, and I'm like, why would you allow it to be sentient? Just keep it unconscious, use it for parts, and you're not really killing a person. But they allow him, they raise him like a child. It's kind of a stupid story, actually. And You raise him to be like a member of the crew. Everyone, of course, becomes affectionate towards this person. Then you realise, oh, we can't remove this part without killing him, and he was going to die in 15 days anyway. So you go through the whole, should we do it? Should we do it? Shouldn't we do it? You know, he doesn't want to go. Then he realises, you know, my couple of days are not worth, you know, this person losing their whole life and possibly this whole war, this whole So you can tell where that goes. Carpenter Street is another one. You just start off and this guy's just going around in a car in the 90s, chloroforming prostitutes and just doing dodgy stuff. And then you find out, oh, he's working for some Xindi that have come back from the future, and they're doing basically tests and things for a disease basically to kill all the humans, or at least to kill a third of the humans, I think it was. So of course, future guy comes and says, okay, Archer to Paul, you guys have to go back and you have to stop this from happening. So we'll send you back, and they basically stop them, because, you know, and that's the episode. But almost the whole episode is just in, you know, current day Earth, and it's like, yeah, it's not really Star Trek. It's like they're trying to be something else again. It's one of those ones. Chosen Realm, having brought aboard a group of religious zealots from, oh, that's right, yeah, they bring on these guys who are convinced that the spears are holy, and because they've gone in, that Carpenter, I keep calling him Carpenter. That was the other funny thing about Carpenter Street. There were so many Halloween references. Carpenter Street. There was someone called Loomis. There was someone called Myers. There was someone called Strode. I'm like, what is this about? Don't know. But yeah, Chosen Realm, basically they bring religious people on and they basically take over the ship and try to basically punish, you know, the Enterprise crew for defiling their religion. And yet they're clearly shown to be crazy, and that's fine because most religions are. That's the whole nature of it all. Proving Ground. Okay. The Andorians show up. I forgot. Because this is the other problem with these. A lot of these episodes don't stand out, and I have to look and go, which one was that? But yeah, basically the Andorians show up because the Enterprise is struggling, and they get rescued, and it's not from the Vulcans, as they point out, it's from the Andorians. And there's a lot of drama there because Shran may not have been there for the best reasons. Again, I don't want to ruin the story, but it's good to see Shran back. He's a great character, and they do play their part very well in this. Stratagem. Oh, yes, that's right. They capture Degra, who was the designer of the Xindi super weapon, and they take away short-term memory and stick him in a simulator and try and fool him into thinking he's been basically betrayed by his people and being hunted down and trying to get the location of the Xindi weapon, information about the Xindi weapon out of him. And it works fairly well where they're both trying to play each other, and again, don't want to ruin it because some of these stories are interesting. But it's there's a couple of good battle scenes, but it's mostly just Archer and this guy in mock space shuttle talking on some level, trying to prove who they are to each other. Harbinger, discovering an alien test subject inside a small craft with a spatial anomaly. Archer brings it on board with dangerous consequences. Yeah, the senior officers. The more interesting story here is the Reed just can't handle the military guys on board because the military guys kind of want to take over and be in charge of everything. And there's just a lot of just an ongoing pissing contest. They're just pissing all over the ship, and it's just like, God, I don't care about this. This is not an interesting science fiction story. A bunch of men being alpha all over each other. It's not interesting. And Reed is just not my favourite character. And yeah, I mean, the actor is it Stephen Culp? Was that his name? Or I'm confusing him with the name of one of his characters. But he's in it. He's good. Unfortunately, Daniel Day Kim is also one of the Makos. But he's only in like 2 episodes. He barely has a scene. And there are other random people who, as far as I know, aren't stars, didn't go anywhere, who have better scenes than him. And I'm like, wow, what a misuse. But I guess he just wanted to be in Star Trek, and there are other things that were more important. So he did that stuff. Doctor's Orders. Oh, this is one of the best ones. I love this one. This is so good. I loved it so much. Loved it. Basically, Phlox has to take care of the ship while the whole crew is put into almost stasis, so they can survive travelling through a part of the expanse. And while he's running around the ship, him and T'Pol have a bunch of problems. And he starts to perhaps imagine things. And it's very spooky, hide her in the house. And there's even like a scene where there's a rattling chain that's being blown by an exhaust on one of the railings. And he literally says, this rattling chains, what is this, a starship or a haunted house? So they make fun of the fact that they're doing a haunted house episode, an alien episode basically. And it's great. And I'm not going to spoil it for you. I love it. It's one of my favourite episodes of Star Trek ever because I love horror. And I don't mind genre in, Star Trek as long as it's got a scientific explanation. It's not supernatural, paranormal, religious, or ridiculous. Hatchery. It took me a moment to realise what was happening in this one. Basically, they find a crashed ship, and the Xindi have basically sacrificed themselves to keep their hatchery alive, and they discover a whole bunch of hatchlings, and Archer gets sprayed, and they think the alien is attacking him, the egg or whatever is attacking him. It's basically giving him a maternal instinct, and then he suddenly becomes obsessed with saving these hatchlings, and to the expense of the ship and the crew, and they eventually mutiny. It's pretty good, it's pretty good. I'm not going to get too much into it, but yeah. So you see the Makos fighting against the rest of the crew because the Makos are being used by the captain to continue his insane agenda with saving the hatchlings at all costs, and the rest of the crew is who mutinies against. So it's like a Makos versus the crew. So that was interesting. Zeta Prime is where they locate the Xindi super weapon, and Archer goes on suicide mission basically. And this is a good episode because they find the spheres being constructed underwater, so you actually get an underwater episode, like a water world, like a water planet, which we haven't seen that often in Star Trek. And they act like, oh, it's too expensive, we can't do this. It's the same thing as every other episode where you're in space, you're just underwater. Why they don't do more episodes underwater, I don't know. Voyager did one, Enterprise did one, and I can't even think of any others. I just don't understand why it's such a big issue, why they can't do it. They don't need to actually go in water and create water. They just need to have water outside the ship instead of stars, and water environments instead of planet environments. I don't know why it's such a problem. But so Archer is being really annoying because he's like, I have to sacrifice myself. I'm not going to sacrifice anyone else. And future guys telling him, you're a key part of this. Without you, this doesn't happen. He's like, I can't be that important. I have to sacrifice myself. And I'm like, Jesus, you're being annoying as hell. This is like 3 episodes where they go through this and he never listens. Damage. Following a Xindi attack, the crew try to repair the Enterprise. Oh, this is pretty horrible. Because we already had the episode, I totally forgot, yeah. When they're trying to find the Xindi, they capture a Marauder. Because as soon as you go into Xindi space, you into the Expanse, you find yourself having difficulties, and other aliens with ships who have worked out all this stuff and have insulated their ships, they will then pick off the new people who are vulnerable. And the ship comes in after Archer. They capture one of the guys, and he has some information about the Xindi, and he won't tell them. So Archer throws him in an airlock and decompresses him. And this guy doesn't believe. He's like, you're too civilized to do this. I'm not buying this. I'm not buying it. You're trying the whole bad cop thing by yourself. Not going to work. And then, the air starts to go out of the airlock and he can't breathe. And he's realizing, oh my God, I can die. That's the horror of torture. And it's not a funny thing. And Archer kind of feels like he gets away with it because he didn't actually injure the guy. He wasn't going to injure the guy. He wouldn't have killed him. But he certainly made the guy think twice. And it's kind of upsetting to watch, and it is disappointing in the character, and it seems to be justifying some of the inhuman torture that American soldiers and the government has endorsed and so forth. So it's one of the grubbiest moments in Star Trek ever, and then we get to this episode where their warp cores are messed up and they find someone. They're like, "Can you give us your warp coils? We need them to like save our planet and billions of people." He's like, "No, I'd have to sacrifice my own people. Sorry, can't." So they're like, "Okay then, we're moral. We can't just take it." 2 days later, he's like, we have to go and take it." So they go track down this person, attack their ship, knock out their weapons, and beam on board and steal their warp coils, and leave them 3 years away from their home planet with. Well, they gave them some supplies and things to help. I really hope, and they should have shown them going back to that ship and helping them afterwards to show that they did that. Because I remember thinking they'd better go back to them once this is all done. They better go back and find those people and help them so they're not stranded. I'd like to think they did, and they just didn't show it in the story. They could have mentioned it in a log. They could have had the guy basically just doing a view screen saying, "Well, thank you for coming back and fixing the problem you caused. Blah blah blah. I understand why you did what you did, blah blah." And they could have handled it. They could have addressed it. The fact they didn't, when this is a season arc and all this stuff is supposed to be connected, really annoyed me. The Forgotten. 2 high-ranking Xindi offer to stop the launch of the super weapon if Archer can prove his case. This is where it starts to get a little bit... they're kind of struggling to stretch the story out a bit. And there's not a lot that happens here. So I'm just going to go to the next episode. E2. This is an interesting one. The Enterprise is contracted by another Enterprise from the past. And they're basically... I'm getting this confused. Almost getting this confused with Twilight, because it's similar. Basically, the Enterprise in the future comes back into the past to basically help them because they know how they failed before. So it's like the second time that's happened, but instead of being in the future, now we're here and there's another version of the Enterprise. So we've got like several versions of the Enterprise and several versions of this scenario that have been resolved or changed. So they come back and the whole issue is, will the ship disappear? Will they survive? Because now they have a whole second generation of people and family and everything. Are they going to have to sacrifice them? Because if they save the Enterprise today, then they won't exist. And it's interesting. It's Star Trek. It's science fiction. It's interesting. These are some of the interesting stories that snuck into this season about September 11 and war. Now we're down to, is this the last couple? Yes, the last couple. The Council. They finally start to convince the Council that the Spear Builders actually lied to the Xindi, because the Xindi are doing all this because they believe Earth's going to destroy them in the future, when it's actually the Spear Builders who are going to destroy them, and it was humanity, Earth, that was going to destroy the Spear Builders. So they basically set them up to destroy us to save themselves. So they finally get enough proof to convince the Council this is the case. But unfortunately the Reptilians, because they need to have a bad guy. So because the Xindi are made out of 5 different races, they have 2 of the races turn and go bad. So then we can keep them being the faceless, bad guys. And then the others, the Sloths, and I don't know what the other guys were. They're kind of humanoid. They join with Archer and that, and they basically, the next 2 episodes are basically them just hunting down the sphere, the weapon where it is, and getting on board. Hoshi gets kidnapped, then Hoshi gets used by Archer to dismantle and basically destroy. Of course, because what else is going to happen? And that's the annoying thing about this season and these episodes, like what else is going to happen? Of course they're going to destroy the weapon, they're going to destroy the Death Star, it's basically just a Death Star, and they're going to win. And the only twist, and this is the other frustrating thing about this season, the way it ends, instead of having a big happy ending, they do have a bit of a happy ending, but then when they get back to Earth, they find out how they didn't know this, because it's really, I was watching this and I'm like, this is really stupid. I mean, I don't know what the stupidest part of this season is. The part where the Xindi send this mini weapon to gouge, like, a thing out of Earth and kill 7 million people, and just let them know, oh, by the way, we're coming back with a bigger weapon later. Here's plenty of time to find us and stop our evil plan. There's that. And then there's this ending where they go back to Earth and they don't realise they're 200 years in the past. And suddenly they go down and like, oh, there's no Starfleet signals. What's happening? Let's just get in a shuttle and see what's happening. And then they have World War II fighter planes like attacking them. And it's like, this was totally a J.J. Abrams moment where they said, wouldn't it be cool if they just go down on Earth and then suddenly they get attacked by planes? That's as deep as it went. And then the next two episodes, the first two episodes of season 4, Stormfront, where basically some aliens stopped something happening in the past, and Hitler ended up taking over, and the world is ruled by the Nazis, basically. But it's still in like the 40s or 50s or something, so they've been taken over for a while. And of course they take part in some sort of rebellion, and of course they defeat them, and it's not very interesting. Some good visuals, but yeah, so I'm already into season 4, but yeah. So season 3 had some great episodes that slipped in accidentally, because the overall idea of this, season-long arc all about war and September 11 really wasn't Star Trek, and really wasn't what they should have done. They should have done the opposite, just shown how much better things can be to give people something to watch, that gives them hope, as opposed to, oh look, in the future we're dealing with the same problems we are today. Like, that's not inspiring, that's not Star Trek, it doesn't give hope. So, total misfire of a season that only saved itself because some Star Trek accidentally slipped in. But yeah, that's my review of the whole season, episode by episode. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you thought of the season. And I'm kind of sad there's only one left. Would have been nice if we'd gotten 7, but we didn't. But I'm going to go, I'm not getting to 27 minutes. I was thinking at most, because I tried 20 minutes for the first season. Second season was 22 minutes. I'm like, well, second season 22. I thought maybe when I was getting towards 20, like maybe 23, and now I'm at 27. But yeah, I'm going to stop talking.